This is StampedeProject.com. Just kind of want to give you the run through here of the weapons, a little more in depth than what I showed last night. So obviously we have the flamethrower. This is what it started out life as, which is a SEPA one-touch power sprayer. I'm going to have to make some modifications, put in a couple Scotchy diodes on the motor, otherwise you're going to have a bunch of interference. And there's also a little valve here that gets kicked off with the finger trigger, gets pushed forward so it actually pumps. Without that, it will just run, it won't pump. So you need to make some modifications. Also, really good to spray bugs. So from there we have a citronella candle, got the wick pulled up, and has served very, 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 very well as a wick. Holds up even pretty well in the wind. Put the cap on there to make sure we don't lose any citronella. These are 120 decibel pain generators that are used in car alarms. Actually, this is from an old car alarm. I found them and stuck them on here. I thought that would be fun. The dual tanks here, it's siphons off the second tank into the first tank so that the first tank's always full and you can fill both tanks. Otherwise, this goes quick. These go in about 30 seconds to a minute of flame throwing. The rocket launcher is no fancier than a servo mounted to a piece of cutting board painted black with a couple of brass welding rods. So that's how I made that. This was the light and the laser were off of my Airsoft MP5. Did an MP5 back here. This was actually, the servo actually controlled the trigger on the MP5. It never fed right and jammed constantly, and it was just a complete pain in the ass and was kind of pointless to begin with. So we got rid of that. The trigger wires, so I've got my right rocket and my left rockets here, and my auxiliary power here. Now, the rocket leads are actually powered when I kick up my rocket 1, rocket 2, and that will arm, and so when I hit the arming channel, it will flip up the servo, like so, and then I'm able to fire by going right, steer full right, and still full left, and this hits a couple pressure switches here. So it gives me a little safety and a little extra cool ability there. With the switches, I really have a little bit about the radio. The radio itself is a modified Spectrum DX3. What's modified is instead of a pressure switch up and down, I actually have a permanent switch, 3-position switch from Radio Shack wired in here. Do a search for a DX3 crawler radio mod and from StampedeProject, and this will come up and I'll show you how to do it. So really, if you pull down, that would actually trigger the MP5, but in this version of the RWDP, it's not triggering anything. The only thing I'm really using is the up trigger, and that up trigger will send power and will trigger any of the servos that are stand up. So in this case, it's just this one. It will arm across the power system using a dynamic engineering PICO switch, PICO switch, that plugs right into my servo lead. And so I've got just a Y adapter that goes from that and my servo. And so when I arm that third channel, it stands up the servo, arms the PICO switch, and the PICO switch has it's a electric relay, so it completes the circuit. You can search the web for PICO switch, and you can find information on how that works. It's pretty cool. And so we got a master power on, and I can arm all these separately. So the first one is a flamethrower, so I can kind of decide which ones I want to fire. Obviously, you're not going to fire all at the same time, so it's kind of pointless to have a 50-channel Spectrum receiver here. The next two are for Rocket 1 and Rocket 2. The third channel is kind of a mixer channel that arms that, this is the mixer. Up are pain generators and lights. Center are lights only, and down are the auxiliary fire. So if we have something like the rockets that you saw me fire the other night, or the missiles mounted up here that we used, standard model rocket igniters, and these are also the rockets we use for the rockets that we lost. Once you wire those up and tape the igniter to the fuse, you hit the up switch, it'll fire them, and away they go. So that's the battle plate. This is what I call the battle plate. The battle plate itself is 1/8 thick aluminum. It's not billet or anything. It's just a nice soft aluminum, and provides a lot of protection to the RC itself on when we're setting off all this fire. The last thing you want to do is burn up an RC like this. And back here we have some removable zip ties along with the industrial zip ties for heating. And we mount a 2-inch mortar back here. So we can do a lot of stuff with this. And in the mortar we can put Roman candles, and we can do whatever we want. So that's the battle plate on RWDP. I'll do another video with the underneath and kind of show you a little bit more about the internals.